I guess consistency is important.
Okay, 4:31. All right, here we go.
431.
And we're live again. Finally, it worked the first time. Yes, I am Josh Hayes. I don't
I'm
even know
not
where to go from this because it
Josh.
just worked well the first time. I have no
I,
idea.
I'm,
what to
I
do.
was
We weren't
just kind of
prepared.
waiting for you to start cursing. I was
Ah.
waiting for the strong line and
Normally you got like 50
yeah. Welcome.
Get you see to work. So start again.
Good. I'm so excited it
Hey,
worked the first
take two.
time. Welcome everybody in the live chat and everybody listening on the feed. Is season 4, episode 31. I am Josh Hayes here with Scott Moon and Chuck Manley. We're talking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe tonight, which was an idea I pitched to the guys and they jumped on board because I'm the boss and they do what I say. And hopefully it'll be a good discussion. I think it will be. I'm glad that everybody showed up and is ready to hang out with us and talk Endgame and the Avengers and the MCU. We should probably start out by saying there will be spoilers in this
Spoilage.
show.
buckets and buckets of
Buckets
them.
and buckets of spoilers. We're coming at this from a writer's perspective to kind of break it down on that level. So if you're not wanting to have the show spoiled for you in any way, or you haven't watched it yet, you still want to, come back later. I'm just kidding. You have to stay here. You're here now. You're stuck
You're
for
trapped.
life.
You're literally a prisoner. You're our prisoners.
That's right.
We have you in
So-
our basement right now.
That's right. We are going to predominantly talk about Endgame as a movie, but we're also going to talk about the series, and we may break this down into like a couple of episodes. We may do a little bit tonight and a little bit next week. We've got a couple of weeks where we have some roundtables scheduled, so we might do kind of a series on series because when we talk about writing and doing long running series, which is the kind of the mainstream. That's what we're doing as indies, is writing these long running series, and that's what makes sense. I think the MCU kind of did it pretty
The
well,
longest of
actually, in
longest.
my opinion. And talking about Endgame, it's the number one best-selling movie of all time in the history of movies. So they've done something right.
That's because they charge $35 a ticket now, and they only
That's
charge
Yeah,
$30 a ticket.
yeah,
Right.
that's got
Yeah.
a lot to do with it.
I always wondered like how they made those calculations, talking about inflation and all that other stuff. Like, is it actually the number one best-selling movie?
Yeah, is it adjusted for ticket prices? That'd be interesting to know. Maybe that'll be another episode. We'll get somebody's good at statistics and
that's right.
analysis.
I think they actually do. They like compare it to, if they'd sold this many tickets back in 19 whatever when this movie was made, how does it compare? I mean, there's some way they do that.
That's going to ruin the cynical reply I had to my son when we were talking about this. It's like, yeah, but when Terminator 2 came out, movie tickets were $5.
Corvo in the chat says we should do Star Wars next. Gosh, I really wanted to have a positive episode. That's why we're doing Marvel.
It's funny, and I think it's Corvo that calls me on this occasionally, is I left the Story Shots podcast. The last episode I did, I said I was going to come back and talk about how I would have fixed Last Jedi. And then life exploded, and I never got back to it. So maybe we should do that next week.
Yeah, there's actually a really good video I've watched that this guy did. It's like a 25-minute video, and it's titled "Why the Last Jedi is a Complete Cinematic Failure." And he broke it down, and I actually agree with almost all of his points. But I think he was like a relatively smaller YouTuber when he did that video. And when that video hit, it became like he got millions and millions and millions of views on it. It's like his number one biggest video. So maybe sometime, maybe How to Fix Star Wars would be a good show.
Really, to do this properly, though, we need to have like a 2-week retreat where we go and we isolate ourselves from the worlds and we watch the movies over and over again. Nobody's allowed to interrupt, take notes.
Wait, which movies? The Star Wars movies or the Marvel movies?
We do the Marvel ones. We can do the Star Wars ones. Just basically an excuse to go on a 2-week cruise with just
really any of the franchises that are going to piss off a lot of people when we badmouth them. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah.
I'm down for that. So let's talk about before we get into it. Let's talk a little bit about what we've been going on since last episode. I've got a little bit of writing done. I'm at 62,000 now in Echoes of Valor. I did about 1,700 words today so far. After the show, I'm probably going to do maybe 1,000 more. We'll see. And I think that's it. I wrote some sample chapters in my fantasy novel that I have planned for late this year with Mark Edelheit. I wrote like half of a sample chapter and then kind of edited one that I transcribed a couple of weeks ago. And I'm going to get that sent off to him today. Ashland's still on hold until I finish Valor 2. And then that'll be done by the end of the month, and then I'll have Ashland done probably like the first 2 weeks in September, hopefully, and then we'll get that off, and we'll be rolling. Edge of Valor 2 is scheduled to release the 1st of October, so I'm slamming to get those words in, so
Get her done.
Steve and Rhett can get the edits to me. What about you, Chuck? What have you been up to this week? I see you got pictures on the back of your wall.
I got my book cover posters in so I can be like Josh, because everybody wants to be like Josh.
That is true.
I finished the space opera short story and got it turned in. I'm getting back into the new urban fantasy Jack Dark series that I'm starting. I'm refamiliarizing myself with the outline I've got for the second Pickman Files book, the sequel to Master of Hounds. And there's this thing that JR put on the Facebook group about I think it's Kevin J. Anderson doing a anthology about movie monster stories.
Yep.
And I actually today I came up with an idea for that while I was vacuuming my pool. so I'm like, oh, that would be cool. And so I'm probably going to work on that too, like in my limited downtime. So yeah, that's about it. And just my daughter started volleyball tonight. Excuse me. So kids are keeping me busy as usual.
Oh yeah,
they're a lot of work. I've noticed. I'm not sure if everybody else has picked up on this, but the children's are a lot of work. Nobody told me this 25 years ago or whatever.
What really strikes me as frustrating as the children being a lot of work is the children don't realize that they're a lot of work. They're just running around playing with their I don't know what's. And Mr.
But you know what? As a grandfather, I can tell you there does come a time where you can lean back and watch them and just laugh.
Because you don't have to deal with it anything. It's just mom, dad.
It's like, Papa Chuck, I'm like, Mama's right over there.
Absolutely.
I can't wait to get to that point in my life, but at the same time, I can wait to get to that.
I enjoy every day, man. That's all you can get.
They get easier. There's all like. We were having this discussion with my parents one time when Jen and I were pretty new in our marriage, and asked my parents, what was your favorite age for the kids? And my dad's answer is whatever age they're at, because that's my dad is.
That's really the way to do it.
But my mom's like, when they get out of that toddler stage, they're a little more interesting and easier to manage.
Yeah.
And she's good with all the ages, but it's true. It is true because I don't know, you just makes life easier. And they get more of my jokes, and they make more of their own bad jokes, which I, of course, laugh at.
They get more of my jokes.
They laugh funny jokes.
But done anything interesting in the writing world this year? Or this week?
This week, yeah. So this week I've been putting the hammer down on Reaper 5. I got a new book cover right here.
Yes.
It's not too bad. It's one of my favorites. And I think I broke 60,000 today. On that, I also started working on a not really super secret, but kind of possible collaboration for a Reaper spinoff series. I'm tentatively calling the Reaper Directive, kind of a prequel type thing.
Nice.
Pretty excited about that, but it's going to be a little while before we can actually get cracking on that. That's going to be fun. It's going to be a multi-person project. trying to get my Order of the Centurion story done and doing a few other things. I got an idea for a cool mech story that, you get those stories when you're on a deadline, but this other one pops into your head. And so next thing you know, you're like 2,000 words deep into it.
Right.
So I got one of those roll, which is it's turning out to be kind of a Mech Warriors Magnificent Seven kind of hodgepodge. So we'll see where it goes. That's what the outline looks like. When it actually gets written, who knows what it's going to be.
Yeah.
But that's pretty cool. So I like that. The big news is it's the last day the pool is open at our city pool in a little tiny suburb I live in, which means the last day is dog day. So there's like 75 golden retrievers over at the pool behind my house jumping in the water. And of course, my little dog is going ape shit, barking through the window at all these dogs jumping in the pool because she's not going to the pool or anywhere near all those dogs. But yeah, it's entertaining. It's kind of cool watching, because everybody likes to watch dogs flounder and jump in the water. But then after today, then they'll drain the pool and it'll be closed for the winter. So
nice.
That's pretty good.
I can't believe it's all it's August, right? I know it's August because my birthday, but the summer's almost done. Like, where the hell did the year? We're in the 8th month of 2019. Where the hell did the year go?
The year is ridiculously fast. I mean, it feels like we just left 20 books from last year.
I just quit my job in February.
Yeah.
It's in February. It's been 6 months.
You're going to get to the point people are going to stop asking you what it's like to have gone full time. It's like, that was 10 years ago.
That was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So we're talking about in-game tonight, and I have several notes. I've got a legal pad page full of notes, and then I also have some notes on my handy-dandy iPad that I took while I was also writing and playing Titanfall 2. And I came up with actually a lot of
episode appropriate T-shirt on.
I have an episode. That's right.
Episode appropriate.
That's right.
Correct.
Episode.
Pretty much.
I couldn't decide whether I wanted to go with this one or I've got a shirt that has all the little baby Avengers on it. And so my 2-year-old looks at it and he goes, Thor and Man and Kaka, because he can't say Captain America, so he says Kaka. And then he doesn't know who Hawkeye is, so he goes Guy. And he doesn't know who Fury is, but when I say it, he'll go Fury, and then he knows who Hulk is because he's like a little Hulk, so he sees Hulk and he goes Hulk smash, and when he says it, his neck vein just pops out, and he gets like this, and I'm pretty sure he's hulking out when he says it. So
that's a great sign for the future. You're gonna have so much fun.
Man,
he's gonna be roided out by the time he's 16.
That's right.
So here's the thing about this. I know you have a lot of notes, and
go for it, Chucky.
You're all prepared and shit. I get that, and I know that's
no. Well, hold on.
Don't support you.
Like one show in 4 seasons, I actually did some pre-show work for.
We're not blaming you for this weird obsession you have with being prepared.
But the thing about it is, I don't think we can really talk about in-game without acknowledging a few things first. Because in-game is the culmination of not just 10 years worth of movies. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, how was it, 20-something, 22 movies?
22 movies?
Yeah, something like that, feeding into this one story. But you also have to take into account that the writers, and I'm assuming it was mostly the Russo brothers.
That's a really horrible place to lock up.
Yeah.
You left at Russo brothers.
Russo brothers. I'm assuming the Russo brothers. When they got together to do this and to say, okay, we're going to do this big 10-year thing that culminates in this giant movie. Number one, it's a testament to planning your stories ahead, because I'm sure they changed things along the way, but they had to know where they were going. So, Josh, there's a nod to your plotting nature.
That's right.
But the other thing we need to keep in mind as far as the success of this is they were working with characters that had decades upon decades of popularity already. You know, it's not like they created something brand new and did all this. So the fan base was there, and the fan base had its own expectations based off these decades of comic books that they had been reading.
Yep.
So they not only had to come up with a compelling cinematic story to tell, but they had to do it in such a way that they kept in mind 50 years worth of stories that had already been told around these characters.
Yep.
And I think that is kind of I think that's the starting point for talking about why Endgame was successful, because it goes back to something I've always said about writing in a genre, whether it's science fiction or fantasy or superheroes or whatever. You have to know the genre and you have to love the genre in order to produce something that people that enjoy the genre are going to want to consume. So that, I think, is the launching pad, and we need to kind of keep all that in mind while we're talking about this, because this isn't something somebody just threw off the cuff.
Right. Well, and I think it's interesting that the one thing I didn't research, and I've listened to it on a couple of like behind the scenes episodes of the Avengers and Endgame, is that the Russo brothers, I think, were brought in to write the first Avengers movie or the second one, I can't remember, but when they were brought in, that's when they kind of started steering
in 2014-ish.
Yeah, that's when they started steering the series towards Infinity War and Endgame. And what's interesting about that is that the MCU would not have happened without Iron Man, and Iron Man was basically it was like a bet, right? Like it was like a heads or tails, like win or lose. If Iron Man doesn't work, then none of the MCU happened, and Marvel actually was on the brink before Iron Man. They pretty much dumped all of their Marvel Studios money, every dime they dumped into Iron Man, because that was like their make or break point. And so they funneled all that money into there and made a great movie. I think you could probably make an argument that Iron Man 2 and Iron Man 3 really don't affect the MCU, other than to introduce like Black Widow. And I can't remember if they introduced anybody in Iron Man 3. I don't think they did.
Pretty much you could have just gone without Iron Man.
There was the Iron Man with the guy that ran really fast, and then the one that cast all the fireballs. She was a big part of the end game. Kind of a mage.
Well, that was Age of Ultron. It had Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch in it. Quicksilver died at the end of that one.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
I know my Marvel fucker. Let me tell you.
That's right. That's right. One of the things that I wanted to kind of also mention while we're talking about this is when Endgame came out, there was a lot of discussion on whether or not it was lazy writing, or that people hated the time travel that Endgame brought into as a plot device. And a lot of people hated on that. And I thought that it's a plot element. It is what it is. And they actually, you watch the movie and they make fun of it several times.
Yeah.
And because I think the writers knew that it was what it was. It was a plot device. It was kind of silly. They knew that people were going to roll their eyes at it. But I think that when you
true to the comic book genre, though.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, I think about the two movies, Infinity War and Endgame, is that the plot really didn't matter. It was the emotional payoff that you were giving the viewers of the franchise over 10 years. The plot could have been anything. Obviously it was to save the world, right? And save the galaxy, but I think that was a very small portion of the movie. I think 95% of Endgame is all character emotional payoff. Like,
absolutely.
And when you watch it through that lens of, I don't really care what happens in the plot, but I care what happens to the character. Like the movie just kind of takes on a completely different aspect, and you get to enjoy it for the characters that they created and the interactions that they had together. And I mean, I've got lists of what they went back for on character just for the callbacks of different things that were so small in the original movies. And then when they bring them back in Endgame, they don't have anything to do with the plot, but they have everything to do with character. I'm going to touch on a couple of them, and if you guys want to harp on one or two of the ones I bring up, then we can. So the first one that I have written down is cheeseburgers. At the very beginning of Iron Man, well, it's the very end of Iron Man, he gets back home. He gets done with his ordeal. That's in the middle of Iron Man, actually. He gets done with the captivity. He gets home, and Happy picks him up at the airport. And the first thing he says is, "I want cheeseburgers. We can do the press conference, but I want cheeseburgers." And he actually gets a Burger King cheeseburger, which I thought was crazy because Burger King is horrible.
I love Burger King,
but
I love Burger King.
They call that
to have hold of the show.
Yeah, they call that back at the end of Endgame, because at the end of Endgame, after his funeral, Happy asks his daughter, "Is she hungry?" And she says yes. And he says, "What do you want to eat?" And she says, "I want cheeseburgers." And she said, "Oh, your dad loved cheeseburgers." And he goes, "I'll get you all the cheeseburgers you want." Doesn't have anything to do with the plot, but 100% character. Like that pulls at your heartstrings. Like
it's a nice detail.
Had tons of those. The scene towards the end before Steve gets in the time machine to take all the stones back to where they belong, and he tells Winter Soldier, "Don't do anything stupid while I'm gone." He says, "How can I? You're taking all the stupid with you."
Yeah,
that goes back to the original Captain America movie, because that's what Steve said to Bucky before Steve became Captain America, when Bucky was getting shipped off to WW2.
That was actually on my list. That was a phenomenal callback. I mean,
there's tons of things in there.
One of the cool ones I thought was right when all the characters come back before the last battle, and Sam comes through Cap's earpiece, and he goes, "Hey, I'm on your left."
Your left, yeah. Winter Soldier.
I don't know that I would have gotten that if I had not watched the movies beforehand. Going back to Winter Soldier and rewatching all those movies, and then going to see Endgame, and then on your left, okay, cool. Like that's an awesome callback from the first time the two met each other. And he not only does he say it at the beginning of Winter Soldier when they're running around, but then they say it at the end when Captain America's in the hospital and he's waking up, and Falcon's on his left, and he says, "On your left." And that's it's like so cool, those things. They're the dance, Captain America's dance at the end of the movie. They talked about that in the first Captain America, about wanting to dance because he had never danced before because he hadn't found the right person yet. They said that back and forth to each other. I know we talked about it in a pre-show. We haven't mentioned the Avengers Assemble line during the live show, but the line that Captain America says right before they charge and go to battle with Thanos, he says, "Avengers Assemble." And in the comics, he said that almost all the time, and that was his, kind of his signature thing when they're going to do their deal. And he never says it in the movies. He almost says it at the end of Age of Ultron, right before the credits roll, when all the new Avengers are gathering up to go on their mission. And he says Avengers, and he opens his mouth, and then roll credits. And I thought that was they built it up, and you're like waiting at the end of Ultron for him. Yeah, say it. And then they cut it off, and you're like, oh my God. I wanted him to say it so bad. But then when he says it in Endgame, like it's a gun punch, right? Like,
and I think it's beautiful because that's the first time all of the Avengers were on screen together.
Yes.
And we were talking about, you said you'd watch some reaction videos and stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean
people were screaming, man. The only thing that set them off more than that is the Mjolnir thing when Steve.
Yes, Yeah, and that's actually the
Shit.
like when that happened. Well, when those two things happen, first when he says Avengers Assemble, and then when he picks up Mjolnir. I mean, the theater we were in went crazy, and then I've seen about a dozen reaction videos on YouTube that people are like standing up and like cheering and screaming, and none of those fans gave a shit about the stupid time travel premise. Like none of them did, and all of them were so excited and happy to see first Captain America pick up the hammer, because everybody knew he was going to do it. First of all, in Age of Ultron, he did it, but then he faked like he couldn't, right? Because when they're having that meeting and everybody's betting that they could put Thor's hammer up, the only person that did it was Vision. But Captain America also, he goes to pick it up, he just doesn't, because you see it move.
It was just a little bit. And he's like, can't do it.
Yeah, can't do it. But he could have. And I thought that was the cool thing when Thor was like, I knew it. That was a cool callback during Endgame. But even that fight between Captain America and Thor when he's got the hammer, man, that was that whole, I mean, what, 20 minutes worth of fight was just like, I could watch that all day.
Yeah, just that last from the moment he bombs the compound.
Yeah. So he bombs the compound and everybody survives. Like nobody gets hurt in this. Chuck, lost you a little bit, brother.
Did you? I was going to say there were even a lot of smaller callbacks. If you watched Spider-Man: Homecoming, there's a scene there when he's getting used to the fancy suit, and he kind of accidentally turns on the insta-kill mode.
Oh yeah, yes.
So he's like, no, don't do that, don't. But then when he's got the gauntlet and he's trying to cross the field, he's like, go to insta-kill, and the little spines pop out.
Oh yeah.
Fuckers getting slashed up all over the place. You know?
Oh yeah.
So I thought that was a really cool callback. But I mean, there's just that movie. I mean, it's just that movie is just Easter egg after Easter egg after Easter egg, and it was made for the people that loved those movies.
Yeah,
you know, it was made for the fans, and it was made to bring all these characters kind of full circle. A lot of people had complaints about Professor Hulk. I love Professor Hulk.
I love Professor Hulk too. That was one of my favorite parts.
Don't even get me started on Big Lebowski Thor. I mean, because you think about it, you think about Thor's character arc. First Thor movie, cocky, you know, just I'm the best, and then he ends up he fails in Infinity War, and you see where he ends up, and then he gets to see his mom, and now you got to wonder, well, you know, where's he go from here? Because I want to see him in the next Guardians movie, because I thought the chemistry between him and Peter Quill was just hilarious.
Oh yeah,
those two guys were great.
It's interesting because I think that Thor and Iron Man have the two biggest character arcs of the entire series that they actually change as characters somewhat. Captain America really doesn't change. Like Captain America is the same from his inception all the way through. He always does the right.
Kind of his thing, though.
Right.
He's the anchor.
Right.
You know,
exactly.
He is the conscience of the team, and he is the steadfast guy. But at the same time, though, it was kind of nice to see him. How he put it in the movie was get a little bit of that life that Tony was talking about.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, and that was kind of his thing. He finally got what he wanted to get in the first Captain America movie.
Right.
So, you know, it's just fantastic stuff, man.
I think Iron Man's Tony Stark's kind of journey with kind of being his playboyish self, to even in Iron Man 3, where you see him kind of first take on that kind of fatherly role with the kid in Iron Man 3 who shows back up in Endgame at the funeral, which a lot of people didn't know who he was. And then of course, obviously with his kid and the Love You 3000 moment that I mean, that I thought it was really nice when he meets his dad in Endgame and basically tells his dad he did the best that he could, and because of his experience with that kid and also with his own daughter, he kind of realizes and has that okay, my dad did the best he could, and
Right.
and has that closure with him. I thought that was really 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 cool.
Well, there's a lot of really strong emotional moments in the movie, you know, if you follow these characters through all the films and everything. But honestly, the one that got me the most was after the Avengers Assemble thing, when everything's going to shit and Spider-Man comes swinging up to Stark,
Yes.
you know, and he's running his mouth like, Mr. Stark, did you see the and Stark doesn't say a word, you know, he just grabs him and hugs him, and it's just
Yeah.
like it was just something about that whole mentor kid, you know, thing. That was probably the scene that made me feel something throughout the whole movie.
I agree. What I think was cool is the characterization that they did with those moments where instead of talking through it, they just let the characters' appearance do the talking. For like Tony could have said something, like he could have made a joke or said something to make light of it, or even just say, "Oh, I miss you," or whatever, right? But he doesn't. He just lets it be, and I think that's something that they did a lot with that movie, even with Thanos, where there's a lot of times that Thanos could have like made some arch villainy saying, like he has a speech, right? But there's a couple times where he could have come off and said some like villainy things while they're fighting or something. He really doesn't. Even after he knows that he's lost, he doesn't. When he knows he's lost, he just sits down and vanishes. And I think that part of the story, the writing, is something that it's really hard to import into novels and written form stories because
This picture tells 1,000 words.
it's
They're different mediums.
right. It's very
You
hard
have
to do that.
resort to, like, internal dialogue for that kind of thing, you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
Just kind of the character saying, you know, I could have said this, I could have said that. Instead, I just walked away or whatever.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it is a little more difficult to do that in prose than on film.
Yeah. And you know, it's hard to he didn't say anything, but his eyes lit up. I mean,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's tough to do. There was one of the channels that I've been listening to, and this kind of goes away a little bit from in game, but kind of on the topic of writing, is I've watched. I kind of focus all my podcasts and writing time on like writers talking about writing, because that teaches craft, and it teaches things that readers might not necessarily or whoever might not necessarily know if they're not writers. Like a lot of the people that watch this show are writers. But I've noticed by listening to this YouTube channel, and a couple others like it, that there is a real difference between how writers approach their story and how readers read it. And it's I don't know that I found many channels that can make that bridge between what a reader feels about a book to say that in a way that a writer can digest it and then regurgitate that on the page to have the reader have that same emotional reaction to what he's writing. So I don't know this guy. This is not a paid promotion. Daniel Green is a YouTuber. It's Daniel, common spelling. Green is Greene. He does a couple videos a week. His thing is fantasy for the most part. He reads a little bit of science fiction, but it's mostly fantasy. And he does a really good job of breaking down story on very on a like a macro micro level, where he breaks down characters, he breaks down setting, he breaks down plot in a way that a reader would break it down.
Is he a writer or is he more of a reviewer?
His YouTube channel is reader based. He is a reader, but I think he is also trying to be a writer. He's done a couple short stories. I don't think he's published or anything like that. I think he's just like starting out in the writing world, but most of his videos come from a reader's point of view. And if you're interested in the way that a reader digests character on books that you know, go and check that channel out because he does a really good job at that. And I think that says a lot about also in game and the MCU series is that it doesn't, like we were talking about earlier, it doesn't matter what the writers think, because the writers aren't going to buy the book. The readers are going to buy the book. And when you've got millions of people in the world standing up and cheering for these characters, you have to kind of look at that and say, okay, what is it about what they're doing with the characters that is making the fans really connect? Because I don't think probably 20%, I'll even 30% of the people that watch those movies were huge comic book junkies, right?
Oh,
Because the probably less, because the movies were made mainstream. And so you bring an entire, and they probably didn't go read the comic books after, because that's not their thing, but they brought millions of people into characters that everybody knew who they were, but they brought millions of people into characters and made them care about these characters who they didn't have any connection to before. And I thought that was really powerful what they did in the story. And so I think a lot of that you can take into your own writing and say, the plot is important, but what really matters is the characters and how you present them to the reader and how the readers enjoy it. It's like Game of Thrones, and everybody's pissed off because Daenerys did her thing in season 8 and she didn't really have any I mean, they don't care, really. They don't care about what she did. They care about how she did it.
Right.
And the reason that there was no logical buildup, right? And I think that's really interesting. Let's take a break.
Whole other side tangent on that.
Yes, I think we should. Let's take a break real quick and talk about our show sponsor this week. Our show sponsor this week is crap. I lost it. It's Johnny Rockets by Ken McClellan. Where did you go? Where's that link? Give it to me. Do what I say. Johnny Rocket and the Beautiful Six. It's an audiobook. If you go to Audible and you don't have a membership, you can get this audiobook for free. Costs you nothing. If you cancel your membership, you can still keep the audiobook. If you don't have a membership, you can start your free trial. I will put a link in the description where you can get the membership. Come here. Let me read the summary. Okay, Johnny Rocket and the Beautiful Six by K.R. Ken McClellan. He's a fan of the show. If he's in the live chat, I don't know if he is, but hi, Ken, if you're in the live chat. Ever have one of those days when the most normal part of your day starts with your date being interrupted by 5 gorgeous ladies begging for a ride off the planet, then being shot at by mobsters, you might be on a ride-along with Johnny Rocket. Johnny Rocket and the Beautiful Six is a sexy, campy romp through the universe with trouble and sticky situations at every turn. Aria, the waitress, is unwittingly dragged along for the ride, but quickly proves she is more than just a pretty face. With spaceships and babes, gangsters and pirates, and giant flying whales, what more could you ask for? And what could these girls have done to tick off so many people? To discover how much fun science fiction can be, get your copy of Johnny Rocket and the Beautiful Six today on Audible. Like I said, you can get it for a free trial. I'll post the link to the book in the live chat. There we go. And also, I'm going to post another link in here because there should be a way that you can get a membership on Audible if you don't already, and then we get some cash too. Let me see if I can find it.
Chat says the only way for this feed to end is for Josh to snap his fingers and close it.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely doing that.
Ka-bing.
Definitely doing it. We can.
Half comes back to the show next time. Otherwise, things went horribly wrong.
That's right. Oh, here we go. Let's see. Audible. If you're, here we go. If you're interested in an Audible account, use this link. It doesn't cost anything extra, but if you use that link, and we'll get it in the show notes as well. If you use that link, Keystroke gets a little bit of nickels, a little bit of quarters, a little bit of dollars, so some money, so we can continue to do all this stuff that you guys like. Well, hopefully you like it.
Also buy some shirts and mouse pads and coffee cups, which I'm getting ready to do because I need more t-shirts.
That is true. All right, well, let's keep talking about Avengers because, man, I think wait, so Josh is the I Dream of Genie? I missed something. Did I miss something? Oh, snapping his fingers. I got it.
Oh, is that what it is? Yeah.
I think, doesn't she wiggle her nose?
No,
that was Bewitched.
Oh, well, I can't do that.
Elizabeth Moon.
We're gonna have to go back and all watch a bunch of I Dream of Genie reruns. I think that's be a good.
What we should do at the end of this show is then go back in time and collect all the Infinity Stones, and then do a show again with all the Infinity Stones and see if that changes.
Keystroke would be a force to be reckoned with if we did.
That's right.
Wow.
That's right. We're writing some rules here.
I do not need that kind of power.
Yeah. One of the interesting, one of the funny things I saw because I rewatched a lot of the movie today, and one of the interesting things I saw was basically a rat saves the universe. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, there is a scene in which right after the credits roll, or right after the title thing happens, and what's his name? Ant-Man is still stuck in the van, and the only reason he gets out of that van is because a rat walks over the control panel and turns on the thing. And so we can boil down the entire savior of mankind to one rat in a storage unit in a van somewhere in California. And I thought that was a pretty interesting rat saves the universe moment. So thank you, Mr. Rat, who doesn't even know. I had no idea.
I personally think that was actually Uatu the Watcher in disguise, affecting human events. And all my comic book people out there know what I'm talking about. Anyway,
You're
go ahead.
Such a geek.
Brother.
Nerd alert.
And Chuck for the win.
One of the interesting things, maybe Chuck, maybe you can help me with this, is that while there certainly were some big plot things that people can argue about and talk about, one of the things that I thought was interesting was that when they talk about the stones in New York, they said, well, if we choose the right year, there's 3 stones in New York, and that's the Mind Stone, the Mind Stone, the Time Stone, and what's the other one? The Power Stone. Is it the Power Stone?
No, that was the one that was in Asgard.
The Mind Stone.
Or maybe it was. I can't remember.
But
anyway.
No, I can't remember. There's 3 of them, right? So it was the Tesseract, the Mind Thing, and then the Scepter, right? The Scepter, because the Scepter was the Mind Stone. But what I don't get is that in the very beginning of Avengers, Loki gets that Scepter from Thanos. Because the people working for Thanos gives him the Scepter at the very beginning of the movie, and then he goes to Earth. So the Space Stone, yeah. So if Thanos had the Mind Stone, then why did he give it up? Because they say that the first time he has a stone is the Power Stone that he gets from when he destroys Nova, right? You don't see him do that, but he has that.
Yeah, when he destroys the planet, yeah.
Yeah.
I think the thing there is he was counting on Loki using the Mind Stone to get him the Space Stone or whatever it is that was powering the Tesseract.
Yeah, because Silent Wolf and Rick say it's the Space Stone.
Space Stone. So the whole thing there was that at that point, the Mind Stone was on loan. and he was.
I love it when Chuck locks up when he's making a good point.
He had the Mind Stone and the Scepter. He loaned it to Loki. Loki was supposed to bring him the Tesseract after he conquered Earth, and he would have 2 stones then. It was a gamble on his part that didn't pay off. And then he got
a good explanation.
He got the first stone back from the Nova Corps when he destroyed whatever that planet was called.
Yeah.
That's my reason on that.
I just need a reason. It doesn't have to be a good reason. I just need a reason.
And take some chances. Got to roll the dice.
Yeah. I think we touched in the one of the callbacks from the first Iron. There was a lot of callbacks from the first Iron Man movie to the end. The I am Iron Man.
Tony, that's why
not the least of which.
Yeah. We could not talk about the I am Iron Man thing because he says it and everybody in the theater was like dead silence, like, holy shit, he's gonna do it, and then he does it. And there was some controversy that came out, not really controversy, but they talked about Captain Marvel being this kind of overpowered superhero, and
but
they were talking.
I mean,
do what?
I said she kind of is in the comics. If you're going by the comics, she can go toe to toe with a Hulk, no problem.
Yeah.
So
well, I was just the only thing that even in the movie I was thinking it too is that when she comes into her power at the end of Captain Marvel and then she shows up and helps everybody at the beginning of Endgame, I was really hoping that they didn't use her to win. Like she wasn't like an easy button. And I even thought it when they were fighting Thanos right before this Tony takes the stones, because she comes in a couple times and it almost seems like she's gonna beat him. And I was in my seat, like secretly going, don't let her win. Don't let her win. Right. Not because I don't like Captain Marvel, but because the emotional payoff for me was not to have Captain Marvel win.
Right.
Like it's a good
steering though, actually, because it gives you, because that was a possible solution. So it was a little bit of a red herring to how it was going to end.
Right.
To make it not so clear to what was really going to happen.
Yeah.
It was on that way.
I will,
but that's another. Go ahead, Chuck.
About that scene. I agree with you wholeheartedly because I was thinking the same thing. I didn't want her to come in and just be the Superman who uses his heat vision to mow everybody down and end of story.
Right.
But there was one scene though. She comes in, she takes out the carrier, and then she comes down and she has that cute little thing with, "Hey, Peter Parker, got something for me?" And,
right.
And he hands her the gauntlet and says, "Well, I don't know how you're going to get through."
Again, with the dramatic pauses.
3 was great. I loved it. I thought they're all fantastic characters. But for just a second, the first time I watched it, I wanted her to look at him and go, "Bitch, did you see what I just did to that spaceship? That's how you get across that field."
Well, see, I saw the same thing when I saw it today. I was like, really? She just destroyed this massive thing. Now she's sitting on the ground. I'm like, I don't know how you're going to get through that. I'm like, did you just see what I just did?
My superpowers.
Right, yeah. I'd have just been like, "Yes, ma'am. Here you go. Have fun."
Yeah. Jay Olivieri makes a good point about the Hulk too, which I think the Hulk was kind of underused in Endgame a lot. And you see Hulk's fight with Thanos at the beginning of Infinity War, and Hulk gets his ass kicked, and it's the first time Hulk has ever got his ass kicked. Of course, then that starts his kind of downward personal struggles with the Hulk. And I
hope they make a movie about that.
yeah. I really wanted to see Hulk come back and join the fight. Not that I wanted him to see him beat Thanos, but I thought that would have been a nice. You can only do so much with the movie, but I thought it would have been cool to have all of them fighting Thanos at the same time. I thought it was really nice that they had the Captain America and Iron Man and Thor fighting together as a trio, because that's the main stay of the series. And the only reason Hulk didn't have another movie on his own was because contractually he couldn't have another movie on his own, because then they would have had to give Paramount half the money for the movie. So every thing that Hulk was in to advance his storyline had to be in an Avengers movie or Thor Ragnarok, because they couldn't do another Hulk movie, which I thought was very sad. I would have loved to see Mark Ruffalo have a whole movie all to himself, but I would have loved to see him also in that fight at the end.
And I wonder if, you know, I wondered about that because number one, okay, he had an arm in a sling because it was jacked up from bringing everybody back. All right, so number one, he's Professor Hulk, so he's not as Hulk smashy, and he's injured. That was a good reason, but still, there should have been a little bit more of him, in my opinion.
Yeah.
In that final scene. Although I will say, watching Ant-Man, you know, one punch one of those big fucking things was very satisfying.
Yes. I liked, I think everybody got a little bit. I mean, what do they say? There's 75 characters.
It's huge.
So I mean, everybody that I thought that really needed something got something in the movie, and which is really tough to do. I was when I was writing Hale's War and wrapping up that 4-book trilogy in the Terra Nova Chronicles, I wanted to put every single one of my characters I wanted to put in that last battle, and I ended up not being able to do it the way I wanted to, but it was really tough to incorporate. I mean, hell, 15 characters, much less 70 plus characters that they did for the MCU. The Winter Soldier really didn't get a payoff actually in the battle. He did at the end of the movie, but
I think they did that on purpose with both him and Sam because they're doing the TV show on Disney Plus with those two characters.
Yeah,
and I think their storylines are going to carry forward, so I don't think they wanted to wrap up anything with them too much.
Right.
So what's our big takeaway here? I mean, what has Marvel done in just one or two sentences in a nutshell that has made them so successful? What writerly technique are they using that is just fucking money? I mean, let's just put it what it is.
I think it's this focusing on character and making the characters resonate with the audience, even if you don't like them 100%. Like I could have done without Fat Thor, but I liked Fat Thor, and I thought that it was really cool that the actor could pull it off, right? Because you have regular Thor and Fat Thor, and those are two completely different characters. But I honestly think it really boils down to character and putting them in putting them together in such a way that when you read them, in our case, you want to follow along with them. I mean, it's just I'm trying to think. We mentioned Game of Thrones earlier. He doesn't have chapters; he just has characters, and you follow those characters around. And you there's some characters you don't like. There's some POVs that you don't like. And there's a lot of them that I'm like, I'm done with Tyrion. I need to read. Hurry up so I can get back to Tyrion because I want to know what Tyrion does in the next scene.
But you're still interested in the other characters. They're still engaged.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. I think that's 100%. And I think if we were going to do any series at all, I think we should really kind of focus on character and breaking that down because,
and then the key thing, if you take it even deeper to even more fundamental level, it's the emotion, and characters is the best way to engage emotions. So if you like watch a thriller that's a really good thriller that's majorly plot driven but doesn't have but the point is it has to hook into emotion that grabs you. Otherwise it's just like watching a documentary or something, and even those are full of emotion if they're done well. But characters allow you to get to emotion quicker than like a clever plot twist because we're afraid, that people are all criticizing the writing and the plotting and stuff, all these things, but all of these things have been done. All the plots have been done so much, and in order to make the plot interesting, you just got to have the characters. So I agree 100%.
Yeah, I
Chuck,
think
you agree?
I think that's it. I think it comes down to, we always say you can have a great setting, you can have a great plot, but if there's nobody in the story for the consumer to latch on to that they care about, that they want to see survive whatever the problem in the plot is, then they're just going to lose interest and walk away and find something else. I think in a lot of ways it comes down to something I was telling my daughter just the other day, really, and that is you can tell somebody something, you can tell someone a story, they might remember it.
Mm.
You can do something, somebody will, maybe they'll remember it, maybe they won't. But if you make somebody feel something, they're always going to latch onto that.
Yep.
The way you make people feel is what's going to stick in their minds. If you tell them a story and it's got some heart and something that really causes a reaction in them, that's going to stick in their memory and stay with them. If you do something that makes somebody feel a certain way, that's going to stick with them.
Makes you break down and cry and sob in a public place, like game, or scream and yell and jump up on their feet, or run out of the theater.
You were crying.
Yeah, like when Steve gets Mjolnir, it's just everybody's
Yep.
they'll go to their grave with that memory. But if it had just been like they're fighting Thanos, they'd have walked out and said, yeah, that was cute, and forgotten about it in a week.
Yeah.
I think it comes down to they built these characters that people loved, and they gave them these moments that just made that generated all these strong emotions in the viewers. And I really think that, and again, I think it comes back to they really gave a shit about what they were making.
Mm-hmm.
They knew their genre, they loved their genre, and they made something that made the genre better.
And one thing I think that we should talk about too before we wrap up is that I did not like all of the MCU movies. I did not like I really didn't like the Thor movies. The first Thor and the second Thor. I liked
did you not like
the first two Thor movies, Thor and then Thor Dark World. And actually what's interesting is that I did not like Thor Ragnarok originally because it was not like Thor 1 and 2. And I was like, this is more of a campy like comedy than a serious Thor movie, and I was thrown off by that. But I think they did that on purpose because the first two Thor movies really didn't get the critical reception that all the rest of the movies got, except for Captain America, the first one, which is arguably one of the weaker movies. I think Winter Soldier and Civil War are the better of the trilogy for Captain America. But I actually, now going back and looking at it, I do like Thor Ragnarok now because that is the Thor I think that is the Thor that I enjoy more, instead of somebody said it in chat earlier, somebody said something about that they didn't like the dark brooding Thor of the first two movies, which I agree with. But we'll have to probably wrap it up here pretty quick. But one of the other things I liked was that the MCU, while it is a long running series, 10 years and 22 movies, each one of the movies is completely separate. You could just sit down and watch Winter Soldier, and there are things in Winter Soldier that you need that wouldn't make any sense if you didn't watch the other ones, but you kind of can conceptualize it and you can sit down and watch it and yeah. And so I think as writers, when we go to write a long series, I think a lot of people get hooked up on writing one story, and that like they end a book without really having any closure to that book. And I mean, Game of Thrones does the same thing, but I think a lot more successful stories, if they have that closure and that story that is encapsulated in that volume, and then it carries over and carries over again. That is something I think that if you can figure out how to do that really well, then it will make your series really, really good. And then there won't be any lag in the series where there's 3 or 4 books that people don't like because it's just kind of a bridge to the end. of the series. I'm gonna put a post in the Keystroke group. It's a poll, and we're gonna see who is your favorite fictional character. It could be in movies, it could be in books. My favorite is Iron Man. So that's the first option. Head over to the group. It's just facebook.com/groups/keystroke medium. It's in there right now. You can go and add your own options and vote on who your favorite character is. What do you guys say about doing a giveaway tonight? What do you think?
Well, I don't know what you're giving away.
I think we should give away a coffee cup.
So you should give it away, give it away, give it away now.
Give it away, give it away, give it away, give it away now. Okay, so we are going to go over to the mediums list. The mediums list. And I have to remember to take out the duplicates because for some reason we have duplicates and we don't need them. How do I take out the duplicates? Show me. Remove duplicates. There we go. And then, of course, then it gives me the finger. Nice.
Silent Wolf also agrees with you that Iron Man is a favorite.
Yes, Iron Man. Very, very. Yep.
You're talking about in all of fiction.
See, I've
All
been
of fiction.
bumbling around through that. I think maybe Orca Melnibone might be my favorite, but I'm not sure.
Molybdenate, wasn't it? I thought it was molybdenate.
That's how I always pronounce it. I'm sure it's wrong. I need to listen to an audio version of it.
Which one? Which book did you say?
Elric. Michael Boxer.
Oh, you were telling me about that the other day, weren't you?
The Black Sword and Stormbringer, and I think it was Moorcock wrote those, right?
Yeah, Michael Moorcock. I'm not sure though. I haven't read it for a while. I'm trying to think of what I would like since then. That's tough.
Ooh, Batman. That's a good one. Dean says Batman.
Batman's good. Punisher. Yeah, Punisher's definitely a candidate.
Okay, I don't see any duplicates in this list, so let me black this out.
Don't need to pull out a D20 or something for you, Josh? I did my little show on gaming. I can use my dice.
Well, there's 41 deal. Can you do that with a D20? I don't know if you can do that with a D20.
41. No, not really.
Hold on. I gotta black this out here. Boom. Okay. Actually, there's 40 because we don't use number 1. This really throws me off. Okay, so let's put this over here. Can you see that on my other screen? No, you cannot.
I can actually do 40 if you want.
You can do 40?
Yeah.
Okay.
I may have to re-roll something if this D100 rolls over 40.
Okay, let's see. Yeah, there are 40. So this is for not this mug because this one's mine. This is for our Keystroke mug. You can see right here. Not really sure how big it is. I think it's 11 ounces. It's actually kind of a smaller mug, but it's really handy for just if you don't want a whole lot of big. I like the big, like massive, like I'm just gonna carry around the pot and drink the pot all morning. But this is nice too. Keystroke medium coffee mug. All right, Chuck, rolling.
Number 28.
28. All right, let's see. Lou Holston is the winner of the mug today. Let's see. Lou, I will send you an email to get all your informations, and we will send you out a mug post haste. And if you are not on the mediums list, you should be. Go to keystroke.medium.com/mediums, I think. Let me double check that. Let me double check. keystroke.medium.com/mediums. Put your email address and your first name in there, and you will get signed up to win on our giveaway. We don't do them every episode. We like to surprise. So congrats, Lou, for your coffee mug. If you would like to be considered for future drawings, hop on over there and throw your name in the hat, and we will give away some stuff. Here coming up in November, we're going to have a do what?
Let's
But
put
we-
coffee this week.
We need to. Scott and I were talking about actually brewing our own Keystroke Medium coffee, which might be a fun thing to do.
That'd be cool.
We should have, considering the presence of alcohol on the show, we should have Keystroke Medium shot glasses.
Oh, we should do shot glasses. Yes, we should do that. If you
A writer
didn't win, which if you're not Lou, then you didn't win, and you would like a coffee cup, you can buy one. You can buy shirts and hats and mouse pads and a whole bunch of stuff. Just go to the Keystroke Medium store on our website. Buying stuff off the website helps us support the show too. So if you want some gear, hats, sweatshirts, t-shirts, stickers,
Keystroke Medium House off the website.
oh yes,
Not sure what that would look like, but it would be pretty epic.
that's right. And the links that we put in the chat are affiliate links. I don't know if I've ever mentioned that before, which I think I have. It doesn't cost you anything extra to click the link and go buy the product that we link in chat, but it gives us a little kickback on the back end, a couple cents here and there.
Pay for that show.
Pay for the show, and hopefully I'll have the Kickstarter out soon. I talked to the one and only Walt Robillard, and he gave me a lot of good pointers and tips to make the Kickstarter really kick ass. And so that'll be rolling out.
Where we get our swag made.
Some of the swag is just done off a website. T-Chip. It's just customizable stuff. You go on there, you put your label on something, and you can sell it.
Rick wants a Keystroke Medium Ferrari.
Oh yes.
Put a Keystroke Medium license plate on it. Don't we have one of those? Or is that
I have the one and only Keystroke Medium license plate because I'm cool like that.
so unfair?
Yeah, it's so unfair. Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of the stuff is sold on T-Chip, and you just buy it there, it's shipped to you. We get a little here, I'll put the link to the store in the silent wolf section for it. We get a little percentage of what you buy on the store. The hat is made here locally. So if you'd like a hat, just send me a message. They're $20 with shipping. And I've got stickers too you can buy on the website. Or if you're on the mediums list, sometimes we send that stuff out for free. So
Like Lou.
yeah, the Keystroke Medium VW. That's right. Cool. Well, I think that about wraps it up for tonight's episode. Everybody in the live chat, thank you guys for coming and hanging out with us. Always is a blast, and we are so honored and grateful for you guys to come and spend your Monday night with us. On Thursday, Lauren Moore and Kayleen Williams will be on the writer's journey. I'm not sure what they got going on Thursday. Let's see. What do they have going on Thursday? Oh, Dating for Authors with Sarah Nofke is on Thursday. So all you single studs and ladies out there in the audience, if you're interested about that, we will be doing Dating for Authors with Sarah Nofke. And I'm actually really interested about that because a lot of authors, don't live in the same town. So I'm interested how that would work. That'll be a really cool episode. And then after that, they go Writing Through Hard Times with Martha Carr. Hasn't Martha Carr been on the writing journey before? I think it has been.
Yeah,
I think she has.
Another.
And then Casey Azel's coming at the end of the month. I didn't know that.
Oh,
She's in
now.
Japan. The
Japan.
Japanese.
She can do some good stuff from there for sure.
I am Siamese, if you please.
Japan.
I am Siamese, if you don't. No,
We had
Lady
a
and the
really
Tramp.
interesting discussion at work the other day about Japan and manga and tentacle porn and all those things. Get the end of that. What's
I can't.
time or whatever.
Can't even.
No,
All the weird shit's been coming out of Japan for the last.
That's right.
50 years.
We'll figure out what we're going to talk about next week. Maybe we'll talk about Star Wars. Maybe we'll talk about something else. We're definitely going to talk about character. We'll talk about some series building probably because that's the fun stuff and that's what we get excited about. So thank you guys for coming and hanging out with us. Come back next week and hang out with us again live at 8 p.m. Or 9 p.m. if you're in the East Coast. right here on YouTube. You'll get a notification if you hit the subscribe button and then hit the little bell, ding. You'll get notified half an hour before the show and right when we go live. And always thank you guys for hanging out with us. Until next time, I am Josh Hayes here with Chuck Manley and Scott Moon. We have been live on Keystroke Medium. Come back. We're going to talk about some reading. We're going to talk about some writing and everything in between right here on Keystroke Medium. Peace.